We have already talked about using indirect objects and direct objects separately. We've also learned how to use reflexives, so now we're all going to kind of put them all together. So, hopefully my smart board decides to work for me. Hello. I'm present. Oh my God.
Oh, I
Over there. Sorry, I don't know where it is. So.
I don't know. It's like Christmas.
I know. I'm excited to open it. I'm kind of scared too.
One time someone opened a box here and opened it up and it was a pair of underwear. So.
Oh, really? That would be really embarrassing.
Not going to say.
I don't think it's a whole box of underwear, but
You know.
you never know. Okay, so should I open it? Let's see what it is.
Can you still like go to the Europe one?
The meeting? Mm-hmm. The parent meeting for Europe's next Tuesday. So at 9. So, come on.
You have to go?
No. Oh, to the parent meeting?
Yeah.
If you want to go to Europe, you have to go to the parent meeting. Okay. Unless, I'll talk to you guys about it after. Let's get going with this. Okay. So, it says at the top, listen guys, we recently have been working with different object pronouns. The 3 types of object pronouns in Spanish are reflexives, indirect, and direct object pronouns. So it says, use your notes to complete the chart. We're going to go ahead and go through this together because it took everybody a while to dig out their notes. But you have that little half sheet of paper that has reflexives, direct, and indirect objects on them. We're going to put them on here again so you have them just right here to look at. So I've given you the subject pronouns on here, okay? That's like the fancy name for all these things. So what's my reflexive pronoun for yo? Me. What about tú? Te, él or ella, se, nos, and se. Okay, indirect objects. We're going to have me, te, and what's my él, ella pronoun for indirects? Le, nos, and les. Okay, direct object pronouns. Again, we have me and te. What's my él, ella form? Lo or la. Nos and los, las. Okay? So, as you can see, they're all totally lined up. Él, ella, usted goes with se, tú goes with te, yo, me, nosotros, nos. Okay? So, and remember, reflexives happen when someone is doing something for or to themselves. Direct objects receive the action of the verb. And indirect answers the question for whom or to whom. For whom or to whom. Okay, so if you ever get confused if you should replace something with le or lo, la, ask yourself, is it something that is receiving action or is it an indirect object? Does it answer the question for whom or to whom? Okay? Sometimes we will need to use 2 of these in a sentence. You will never use all 3 together, okay? So here's some examples. I bought it for myself. Do I have any reflexives in this sentence? Do I have anything that's being done to myself or for myself? Yes. So I'm going to underline this, and I'm going to label it R for reflexive. Okay. Do I have anything that is receiving action? The book is receiving the action of being bought, okay? So it is a direct object. If you notice at the top of the paper, In parentheses, I put RID. RID stands for reflexive, indirect, and direct. So that's the order they go in when you put them in a sentence. So R comes first, and I'm going to replace myself with me. And what am I going to put for the book, el libro? It's a direct object. Lo, me lo, past tense. Okay, here's where our preterite imperfect comes in. Am I going to use preterite here, or am I going to use imperfect? Preterite. Why? It's a finished action. Okay, so me lo compré. I bought it for myself. Me lo compré. Next one, we bought it for you. Do I have any reflexives? Nope. Nothing's being done to themselves. What's my indirect object then? It's me, my direct, because it's receiving the action of being bought. If it's receiving action, then it's me, my direct. So who's receiving the book, though? You. Okay, for whom? For you. Indirect. So which one's going to come first, I or D? I. For you becomes te, and then the book is still lo. And then what would we bought be? Compramos. Te lo compramos. We bought it for you. So in Finnish, they structure things a little bit backwards from us. So literally we're saying you, it, we bought. Okay? Hopefully this will become muy fácil for you. Now there is one special rule that I think I may have made up. Well, I didn't make the rule itself, but the name for it I did. To using double object pronouns in a sentence. And I'm going to call it the la rule. Okay? So, when you have a sentence like, I bought it for him, him is my indirect object. So it's going to become le. And el libro is my direct object. It becomes lo. Here there are too many L sounds. Le lo compré sounds weird. So for pronunciation's sake, anytime you have le lo, le la, le los, or le las, you must change the first word to say. Right? So when do we usually use say? When something is reflexive. Okay? So here, it's not, you're going to learn, especially if you go on in Spanish, there's actually a few different types of says. This is not a reflexive say. Okay? It's just replacing the le here because it's easier to pronounce. Does that make sense? The only reason it's changed is because it's easier to say. All right? So, se lo compré, I bought it for him. Any questions so far? Nada? Okay.
Is this the worksheet that you're giving us?
Yeah, so it shouldn't take you too long, okay? All right. Let's go ahead and practice a little bit. So the first section, all you're doing is simplifying the sentence. I can't tell you any better way to work with these than to just practice with them, okay? Even I've studied Spanish for 13 years, and this is still a little difficult for me. Not in writing, but when I'm speaking, I still have to kind of think about it, okay? So you have to practice these. So, simplifying the sentence, ella compró las decoraciones para mí. So she bought them for me. What am I going to replace first, or what's my indirect object? So are there any reflexives in the sentence? No. Okay, so who were the decorations bought for? Me. Okay, so what does that leave to be my direct object? The decorations. Okay, so my I is going to come first. If you want to put the ella, you can. That has to go at the beginning. Me. And what am I going to replace las decoraciones with? Me las. And then your verb does not change, okay, because she's buying them. Ella las compró. Okay. On the next section, what you are doing Okay, last little thing here. I gave them to her. What am I going to replace, or what's my indirect object? Her. Okay? For whom or to whom? To her. Okay, so what is my direct object then? The flowers. Okay, you are underlining the indirect. I gave them to her. So I'm going to replace her with what? Le. And then I'm going to replace las flores with las. But I can't have le las. So what do I have to change my le? Say. Say las. And then I gave is going to be di. Say las di. Okay? If you want it, which you may need it here, gave is going to be preterite. Okay, obviously, even in English, we would call that preterite. Comes from the verb dar, to give. Okay? So my yo form of gave is di, like we did there. My to form is going to be diste. Él, ella is dio. Nosotros dimos. And ellos dieron. Okay. Are there any questions about this?